Hello everyone, Nado-Kun speaking. Today, I'll be sharing details about a fresh fantasy anime titled Vermemell Gold. The narrative commences at the Ortegia Royal Academy of Magic. We encounter a young man called Alto Goldfield. He learns that he didn't pass his summoning examination and discovers that unless he can establish a bond with a familiar before tomorrow, he'll need to repeat his grade and redo the entire academic year. Alto reconnects with his longtime companion Lilia Cutelfet. She's astonished to discover that Alto might repeat a year even though he achieved flawless marks in all his other subjects. Alto informs her that he still has time until tomorrow and plans to attempt once more. He goes to the library seeking assistance. A tome tumbles from the bookshelf and strikes his head. Much to his amazement, it's an ancient summoning manual. He brings the book to his residence and performs the ceremony described within. The summoning incantation becomes active and Alto provides his blood. The ritual succeeds and an unclothed demon maiden named Vermemell appears. They establish a pact and Vermemell kisses him to absorb his magical energy. She tries to entice him, but he declines and insists she wear clothing. Following this, Alto questions why a demon would agree to be his familiar, since the demons mentioned in their historical studies have consistently harmed humans. She explains that she was imprisoned within the tome and will serve him in appreciation for her liberation. The following morning, Alto introduces Vermemell to his instructor as his summoned creature. She hides her horns and tail to appear human. Initially, the teacher doubts Vermemell is Alto's familiar since there are no documented cases of humans serving as familiars. However, Vermemell displays her familiar mark and the teacher must acknowledge her and allow Alto to pass. Lilia becomes envious of Vermemell while observing them from afar. During lessons, Vermemell sits on Alto's lap displaying her fondness. The instructor mentions that such conduct is inappropriate, which pleases Lilia. But Vermemell notes that numerous students have their familiars beside them and references the Academy's principle of coexisting with one's familiar. The teacher becomes speechless and Lilia struggles to accept this situation. Following class, Lilia approaches Alto. She dislikes Vermemell and proposes a combat challenge. Should she emerge victorious, Vermemell must distance herself from Alto, but if Alto succeeds, she'll follow one of his orders. They proceed to an elevated platform and their battle is transmitted to all other pupils. Lilia calls forth her familiar, Sylphid, an elite wind spirit, which surprises Vermemell. Lilia merges her wind magic with her familiar and launches a devastating assault at Alto. Vermemell positions herself before Alto and absorbs the attack directly. When the smoke dissipates, Vermemell remains completely unharmed. Vermemell strikes back using magic that makes Lilia become extremely aroused, forcing her to surrender. Since Alto was victorious, he orders Lilia to befriend Vermemell. Later, Vermemell informs Alto that Lilia has romantic feelings for him, but he remains skeptical. She kisses him to restore her mana and explains she must do so or she'll vanish. She attempts to seduce him again, mentioning there are more efficient methods to replenish her magical energy, but he halts her and states that kissing is sufficient. The next morning, everyone appears to be watching them as they walk to the academy. Alto instructs Vermemell to remain inconspicuous so they won't attract notice. Suddenly, a dragon charges down the pathway, but Vermemell halts it with a simple gesture, launching it toward the distant horizon. Alto observes that everyone is staring at Vermemell and reprimands her for creating a spectacle. The headmaster greets the students to their sophomore year and Alto participates in his different courses. Lilia remains jealous of how Vermemell stays close to Alto. After classes, Lilia joins Alto and Vermemell on their walk home so she can monitor them. They encounter two students, the dragon's owner that Vermemell defeated and his older sibling Rex. They've come to seek revenge against Vermemell, but while they're occupied, Alto sneaks behind them and confines them in a crystal cage. Rex calls his familiar and escapes. Rex is a fifth-year pupil and summons a dinosaur. Rex directs his familiar to strike, but Vermemell enhances Alto's mana, enabling him to release a much more powerful crystal magic assault and overcome Rex. Upon returning home, Vermemell inquires about Alto's life aspirations. She offers to make him wealthy, but he tells her he desires to become an exceptional mage. He clarifies that in their world there are 4 mage classifications: apprentice, bronze, silver, and gold, but he aims to surpass these to achieve platinum rank. Vermemell supports his ambition and vows to assist him in reaching it. The next day, they and Lilia encounter their friends Marx and Cheryl. Marx comes from aristocracy and is impressed that Alto defeated a fifth-year student, viewing him as his competitor. Their instructor arrives and informs them the headmaster wishes to see them. The headmaster announces that one of them will become the student representative. To determine the choice, he presents them with a special challenge. Whoever can obtain a fairy flower from the woodland will become the class representative. Marx summons his familiar, a beetle called Franchios, and hurries away. Marx faces an attack from a carnivorous cypress plant and Cheryl remains to assist him. The others proceed searching for the flower and spot it atop a mountain. Nevertheless, the entrance is protected by a slumbering Cerberus. Lilia possesses an invisibility elixir and intends to use it to slip past the Cerberus. Alto worries that the Cerberus could still detect her scent, but Lilia mentions it has a cold, so she should manage to pass. She consumes the potion and becomes invisible. Nevertheless, her garments remain visible. Lilia becomes anxious about undressing before Alto, but has no alternative. As Lilia nears the Cerberus, Alto recalls that it's a competition. Vermemell tells him she can easily vanquish the Cerberus, but approaches Alto for additional mana. Lilia attempts to sneak past the Cerberus, but not all heads are ill, and she gets spotted. Alto creates a distraction for the Cerberus, instructing Lilia to retrieve the flower. As the Cerberus rushes toward Alto, Vermemell emerges from overhead and releases her demonic abilities. A massive explosion occurs, and Lilia manages to grasp the flower. She returns the flower to the others below. She concedes defeat and offers to present it to Alto, but her invisibility fades, and she becomes embarrassed and drops the flower. It gets carried away and lands in Cheryl's possession. She claims the position, and the others celebrate with her. While heading to the academy, Vermemell delights in tasting a crepe for the first time. Having been imprisoned for centuries, she never experienced contemporary cuisine. The students gaze upward as a squadron of dragons soars overhead. All pupils admire the commander of the Dragon Riders, Chris. Vermemell asks Alto about their identity, and he explains they are the Dragon Riders, the same organization that Rex is part of. At the academy, they reunite with Marx, Cheryl, and Lilia. Marx describes how remarkable Chris truly is. Besides leading the Dragon Riders, she serves as an official on the student council and ranks among the academy's 7 gold-level students. Alto is amazed she's already achieved gold rank as a student. He wishes he could resemble the student council president, who is reportedly near platinum level. Vermemell tells him it's achievable while embracing him tightly. Lilia quickly separates her, and the two dispute over Alto as always. After lessons, Lilia expresses her annoyance about Vermemell to Cheryl in a dressing room. She questions whether Vermemell is truly human, recalling how she defeated the Cerberus with one strike, something even a gold-ranked mage couldn't accomplish. Lilia suspects Vermemell and pledges to reveal her true nature. Cheryl realizes that Lilia must genuinely care for Alto, but this makes her panic and become flustered. Cheryl urges her to reveal her feelings to Alto. Meanwhile, in the male-changing area, Vermemell creates a commotion, following Alto inside while all the boys are undressing. Alto feels embarrassed, and Lilia envies that Vermemell witnessed Alto changing. Alto tells them they must remain unnoticed to avoid problems with the student council. Vermemell tells him she'll simply defeat them all and Alto will achieve gold rank quickly. As they proceed, the student council appears before them. The group quickly moves aside. As they pass, Chris stares at Vermemell, questioning her identity. Later, Vermemell enters Alto's shower and tries to seduce him again. Rex receives a beating from Chris when she discovers he lost to Alto. She feels ashamed for him to belong to the Dragon Riders since his familiar is merely a dinosaur rather than a dragon. She continues attacking him and removes him from the Dragon Riders. Alto learns Rex was hospitalized and goes to visit him. Rex's sibling blames Alto for causing Rex's expulsion from the Dragon Riders. Alto understands what occurred. Shortly after, Alto ascends to the dueling platform with Vermemell. At the summit, they confront Chris. Chris offers Alto an opportunity to withdraw from the duel, but they remain determined to battle. Chris calls her familiar as her dragon materializes. Alto calls to Vermemell and she amplifies his mana. As Lilia watches in terror, Alto launches his crystal assault, impressing Chris, but she manages to halt it with a single magical blast. She attacks again and Vermemell must block the strike. As the flames subside, Vermemell appears unharmed but has sustained some injury. Chris proceeds with a rapid succession of fireballs. Vermemell deflects all the attacks and descends to the ground. Alto tries to counter with his crystals, but Chris destroys them all. Chris admires Alto's ability, but is more impressed with how Vermemell can withstand her attacks directly. Vermemell grants Alto even more of her power, enabling him to launch an enormous barrage of crystals at Chris. The attack connects and creates a huge explosion. Alto feels relieved it's finished, but Chris emerges, mounted on her dragon. She declares that dragons are supreme beings and all others are lesser. She rains fireballs from above at them, while Vermemell continues protecting Alto and tells him to gather his mana. Determined to prove her mistaken, Vermemell supercharges Alto again, and he releases a massive crystal attack. Chris destroys it but loses track of Alto's location. Using the crystal fragments, Vermemell leaps toward Chris. Before Chris can respond, Alto places a crystal against her neck and claims victory in the duel. All students cheer for Alto and he gains popularity with the female students, making Lilia even more jealous. One instructor, Professor Obsidian, appears and advises Alto not to treat Duels carelessly. He congratulates Alto on his victory and departs as all the ladies follow him. Alto asks Lilia if she's also attracted to him, but she's offended by the implication. Chris meets with Rex, and he's surprised she's performing her own tasks. She apologizes to him, but he's shocked to hear such words from her. Rex takes over the duties, and they reconcile. That evening, Vermemell tries to seduce Alto again, but he says one should only kiss someone they love, so she declares that she loves him, which startles Alto. The next day, Alto feels anxious while Vermemell appears revitalized. Alto remembers Vermemell confessing her love and turns bright red. He visits Professor Obsidian and inquires if demons can develop feelings for a human. Obsidian tells him that demons only desire humans for their magical energy. During the evening meal, Alto confronts Vermemell, asking if she only loves him for his mana. Vermemell reassures him. She demonstrates her sincerity and kisses him without absorbing his mana. Vermemell suggests he should try kissing her, but he cannot bring himself to do so. The next day, Alto feels content having resolved his emotions toward Vermemell. He apologizes to Professor Obsidian for his unusual question about demons, but the professor is simply pleased to see Alto feeling better. Later, Obsidian meets privately with a female student. She confesses her love for him and he embraces her. However, he holds a questionable syringe. The girl is subsequently found frozen in her quarters. Word of this event spreads. The girl was saved but remains in a coma. The student council investigates the assault. The vice president Ryuga Shinuji and executive Jessica Schwartz discuss the incident, revealing this to be the third case of a student falling into a coma. Meanwhile, Alto takes measurements of Vermemell because in class they were assigned to write a report about their familiars. Vermemell undresses for Alto to measure her while Lilia's familiar observes them. Lilia stands outside his room with Cheryl and her familiar reports what it witnessed, and Lilia becomes furious. Lilia has another invisibility potion and a duplicate of Alto's key. She leaves her clothing with Cheryl and sneaks into the male dormitory. She opens Alto's door and enters his room. Alto walks directly toward her, causing her to panic, but he simply retrieves a book. While searching for the correct book, Alto touches Lilia without realizing, leaving her shocked. Alto finishes his report, listing the things that Vermemell enjoys, such as crepes, but Vermemell adds to the list, writing Alto's name. Meanwhile, Chris and her dragon are defeated by an apparently possessed Rex and his transformed dinosaur. There's a flashback to when Rex first summoned his familiar as an egg. He's delighted by its size, and it even catches the attention of a young Chris. They connect over it and even become companions. In the present, Alto and Vermemell are purchasing groceries. Vermemell is drawn to the confections, but Alto tells her they're low on funds. Vermemell is heartbroken and sits on the floor, having a tantrum. Alto surrenders and tells her he'll purchase one dessert for her. Vermemell is ecstatic and embraces him as all the other students observe. She even kisses him, which makes Alto feel embarrassed. Vermemell is puzzled about the issue, as she didn't even absorb his mana. Suddenly, they're interrupted by Rex's brother, who is panicking and pleads with them for assistance. Chris continues being beaten by Rex. She tries to retaliate, launching her fireball at him. There's a massive explosion, but Rex endures the flames as his body begins to transform. Rex creates a pillar of rocks that sends Chris soaring into the air. He steps on her face and mocks her to fight back. Chris begs him to cease. Alto and Vermemell arrive, demanding he release her. Rex tosses Chris aside and decides to get revenge on Alto for defeating him previously. Alto rushes to Chris and she tells him to flee. Rex's power becomes chaotic as Vermemell recognizes something familiar about his ability. Rex summons his familiar, which has also transformed. Alto's hand glows as Vermemell prepares for battle. However, the student council president Elena arrives, and with her sword familiar, she delivers multiple strikes on Rex and his dinosaur, defeating them and eliminating their mutation. Elena checks on Chris, but she's ashamed that she lost to Rex. Rex gets back up, but is too wounded and collapses immediately. Chris hurries over to him as he lies unconscious. Vermemell remains curious about his power, and Elena asks if she has knowledge about Rex's ability, but Vermemell denies knowing anything. The student council holds a meeting, noting this to be the fifth incident. They suspect someone is responsible, using substances or dark magic on the students. Chris cannot bear the report and storms out. Jessica is puzzled why Chris cares so much about Rex. She despises it when people interfere with things that belong to her. Meanwhile, Alto and Lilia are informed about their upcoming examination for bronze rank. Alto is distracted, but Lilia reminds him of its importance. Vermemell tells Alto that she feels tired and will return to the dormitory while he studies. She departs and Alto worries about her. She has been behaving differently ever since their encounter with with Rex. Lilia uses this chance to be alone with Alto, using studying as a pretext. As Vermemell walks back to the dormitory, she encounters Professor Obsidian. They have a brief conversation and he's surprised to see her without Alto. Vermemell accuses him of being responsible for the incidents. Obsidian pretends ignorance, but Vermemell mentions how she can detect low-level demons on him. She warns him he should cease his actions and leaves, telling him that it's too much power for a human to control. Obsidian asks if she will expose him. She doesn't care but simply warns him to stay away from Alto. Obsidian comprehends her true nature and acknowledges that his demonic creatures are inferior when compared to her abilities. Vermemell proceeds to depart as a paper figure drifts past. Without warning, Obsidian materializes behind her and pierces her with his needle. She repels him, but pain begins to course through her body as shadowy force starts emanating. Obsidian observes with malicious intent, desiring to possess her. During this time, Alto and Lilia engage in their studies, while Lilia attempts to advance her romantic interests with Alto. Abruptly, Alto experiences intense pain as his palm starts radiating light. A massive blast occurs outside, and Alto understands that Vermemell faces danger, prompting him to rush toward her location. Students throughout the academy sense the surge of malevolent energy. The heavens darken and Elena hurries toward the disturbance. Nevertheless, she encounters a paper figure which she cuts in two. The figure repairs itself and begins speaking. It endlessly duplicates and merges together, creating a being that declares it cannot allow her passage. Elena battles the entity, yet following each strike, the creature manages to restore itself. Meanwhile, Vermemell has changed into an unstoppable winged fiend. Obsidian observes with delight and boasts. With a motion of her limb, Vermemell releases a destructive energy wave, astonishing even Obsidian. He employs his sorcery and binds a magical restraint around Vermell's throat to dominate her. When Alto and Lilia reach the scene, Obsidian demonstrates his command over Vermemell, forcing her to kneel. Alto is appalled by what he witnesses, and Obsidian brags about being responsible for the attacks and injecting victims with demonic essence to transform them into demons. Alto and Lilia are stunned by this disclosure. Contemplating Vermell's potential loss, Alto becomes furious and sends a burst of power to Vermemell. Vermemell suddenly shatters the restraint and springs to assault Obsidian, but Alto intervenes and becomes pierced by her talons. Alto's blood flows everywhere and memories flash back to Vermell's imprisonment. She remains isolated in darkness and emptiness until an entrance appeared and she encountered Alto. As Alto collapses, Vermemell transforms into a more savage form. She strikes at Obsidian again, but Alto intercepts her once more. He soothes her and she weeps, returning to her normal appearance. Alto falls and Lilia is terrified. Vermemell kisses Alto and manages to mend the wound in his torso. Obsidian panics at these developments and injects himself with his concoction. He becomes a grotesque demon, declaring this his greatest achievement after consuming hundreds of lesser demons. He intends to destroy Vermemell and claim her abilities. He launches a drilling strike, but Vermemell counters, eliminating half his form with one blow. Obsidian is amazed by her strength and abandons his physical form to flee. However, Chris blasts him while riding her dragon, and Vermemell leaps up to strike him, sending him crashing down as his demonic body dissolves. Alto awakens and Lilia weeps with relief that he survives. The monster Elena fought withdraws, promising they will encounter each other again. Vermemell expresses regret to Alto for causing his death, but he remains unconcerned since she healed him and everything ended well. However, Vermemell sorrowfully reveals that she had damaged his heart, and to restore him, she provided him with a demonic heart and connected their life essences, meaning if one perishes, the other will also die. Alto is crushed upon learning this, knowing she will die alongside him when she should be capable of eternal life as a demon. Obsidian faces arrest, and Rex awakens from his unconscious state, with Chris sleeping nearby, and all other students also wake up. Later, Alto and Vermemell share a kiss as Alto's heart now depends on Vermell's magical energy to operate. Vermemell begins behaving distantly toward Alto, and Alto confronts her about it. She explains that her monstrous form represented her authentic self, so he should fear and avoid her. Alto becomes angry, stating he doesn't care about that, and kisses her. Vermemell is surprised and pushes him back. Alto declares his fearlessness of her and announces they will remain together eternally. Vermemell accepts his words and Alto becomes embarrassed and quickly flees. Vermemell contemplates how Alto mentioned you should only kiss someone you cherish, understanding that Alto loves her, and she becomes flustered. The